Have you ever felt that someone from your past tried to erase your name, as if there were an invisible hand working in the shadows with the sole purpose of making people forget you, treating you as if you had never existed, removing you from conversations, plans, and memories that once seemed so solid? It is not paranoia. It is not neediness. It is not an exaggeration of your imagination. It is a sign that you were marked even before you were born, and that the enemy of your story knew it long before you even began to discover it. There is a war being fought behind the scenes of this reality, and it has an extremely specific target: your name. Because a name in the spiritual realm is much more than a set of letters on a certificate. A name is frequency. A name is a mission. A name is the password that opens gates in dimensions that human eyes cannot reach. And when someone from your past tried to erase your name, whether with lies, with slander, with sepulchral silence, with that strange distancing you could never explain, with that betrayal that came from the place you least expected, that person, even without knowing it, was fulfilling an order that came from much further away than they could ever imagine. Think for a moment. Why you of all people? Why did your name specifically need to be crossed out from conversations, opportunities, and plans? Why were you, of all people, taken out of the path of those who swore to love you? Why was there a supernatural urgency to make you disappear from circles where your presence was beginning to become a nuisance? I will tell you now, and I want you to receive every word as if it had been written personally for your spirit. They tried to erase your name because heaven had already written that same name in golden letters long before any human being put pen to the paper of your life. And when heaven writes in gold, hell declares war immediately. When heaven marks a chosen one, the darkness mobilizes entire armies to try to smudge that mark before it begins to shine. And that is exactly what happened to you. Every person who walked away for no reason, every door that closed without explanation, every name that disappeared from the lists where you should have been, all of this was part of a spiritual operation orchestrated so that you would never discover who you really are. But there is a much deeper layer to this, and this is the layer that no one tells you about. The fact that you are feeling this strangeness, that you are reading this text right now with a heavy heart, and at the same time relieved, is proof that you are not an ordinary observer of this story. You are a central piece of a gigantic spiritual game where the visible movements, the fights, the betrayals, the abandonments are just the surface of something much larger. The people who tried to erase your name were just pawns. The backstage is inhabited by entities that know exactly what you represent, and that is why they did everything, to make you doubt yourself, feel small, and convince yourself that you were invisible. That is why I prepared the powerful ebook for you, The Guardian's Handbook for Family Protection. This book is not just reading, it is a map that shows exactly who is playing against your name in the spiritual realm. What are the rules that were never told to you about how the attack on a chosen one's name works, and what needs to be done so that no one else can erase you from the history in which you were designated to shine. This book was created for those who have awakened enough to understand that what happened in your past was not about the people, it was about what those people were used to prevent, and that within your family there are patterns of erasure that have been repeating for generations, hitting precisely those who carry the gold of the anointing. The link is pinned to the top of the comments, but I need to warn you with all honesty, this type of content is rarely available for long. What is on these pages challenges narratives that many have an interest in keeping intact, narratives that keep the chosen ones in oblivion, and there have already been real attempts to silence this knowledge before. Do not wait for the right moment, chosen one, because the right moment is exactly now, because you did not arrive at this text by accident. Download it now and leave in the comments the phrase that will mark your decision. I am chosen, and I will download the ebook. Comment this, because the next excerpt will show you the most brutal blow they tried to strike against your name. Now that you have taken your position, pay attention, because this is where the story begins to turn. When heaven writes a name in golden letters, that name carries a vibration that can be felt by entities that see what humans do not see. It is as if you were walking through the world emitting a light that can only be captured by spiritual sensors. And this light attracts two things at the same time. Extraordinary blessings, the kind that will reach you even when everyone says there is no way left, and fierce attacks, the kind that come disguised as ordinary people, as coincidences that seem random but are being orchestrated with surgical precision. The people from your past who tried to erase your name were, without knowing it, being used as antennas for this operation. They felt, even without understanding, that as they approached you there was something within them that was bothered. It was not common jealousy. It was not vulgar envy. It was an involuntary spiritual reaction to the gold that was being written over your life. And here is the most disturbing detail. Whoever tried to erase you was not always a declared enemy. Often it was someone who sat at the same table as you, who slept under the same roof, who ate from the same plate. Because the erasure of a chosen one is an operation so sophisticated that it happens from the inside out. It starts in the most intimate places. It starts in childhood. It starts in disguised comparisons, in poisoned compliments, in looks that lasted a second longer than they should have. You were not going crazy when you felt that something did not add up. You were capturing, with your chosen one's sensitivity, the silent war that was being waged against your identity. And it was this war that tried to convince you that you were anything but special, that you were anything but called. But heaven does not forget. Heaven is the eternal archive where no name written in gold can be erased, no matter how many human hands rise up to try to cross it out. While people were trying to take you out of conversations down here, angels were mentioning your name in councils up there. While they excluded you from meetings, decisions were being made in higher dimensions in your favor. While they called you difficult, complicated, or any adjective that served to diminish you, your name was being engraved on surfaces that will survive this entire universe. There is a phrase that needs to enter deeply into your heart now. What the gold of heaven writes, no coal of earth erases. No tongue, no betrayal, no oblivion, nothing. And that is precisely why the time for everything you have been through is coming to an end. You feel it, don't you? There is something in the air of recent times that seems different. There is a feeling that cycles are closing. There is a tightness in the chest that is no longer common anxiety. It is spiritual anticipation. It is your soul recognizing that the season of erasure is over. The people who tried to take you off the scene will begin to realize that it is their names that are disappearing, while yours, which so often was pronounced with contempt, will return to being pronounced with respect, with admiration, and in some cases, with regret. Because that is how the kingdom of the chosen works. What was hidden is revealed. What was silenced gains a voice. What was erased shines in golden letters. But I need to warn you, this process of restoring your name is not automatic. It depends on a conscious decision on your part. You need to understand that there is a set of spiritual rules that govern how a name is restored after having been the target of an erasure operation. And these rules were never taught to you. That is why I prepared the ebook The Guardian's Handbook for Family Protection, because inside it are exactly these rules, written in a way that anyone who has a minimum of awakening can apply immediately. The book shows how to identify who was the person from your past who served as an instrument for the erasure of your name, shows the spiritual signs that confirm that you are a chosen one marked in gold, shows the exact moves so that this erasure is reversed, and mainly, how to protect your entire family so that this pattern does not continue to repeat itself in the next generations. The link is in the first pinned comment at the top. And look, this content challenges narratives that entire structures depend on to remain standing. When the chosen ones discover their own name, entire systems lose their raw material for manipulation. That is why this book has already faced attempts to be taken off the air. Do not wait for the right moment. Chosen one. The right moment is now. It is this exact second in which you are feeling your chest tingle, because that sensation is your golden name reacting to the call. Comment now the commitment phrase, "I am chosen and I will download the ebook." Comment and prepare yourself, because the next part brings the revelation that is perhaps the most difficult to accept, but also the most liberating. There is something that needs to be said now, and I ask for forgiveness in advance if this causes discomfort. The main reason why your name was the target of an erasure operation was not what you did. It was not a mistake from your past. It was not a flaw in your character. It was simply what you are. It was what was written about you even before you committed any conscious act in this life. It was your essence. It was the gold that came with you at birth. The people who tried to erase you were not reacting to your behaviors. They were reacting at levels they themselves did not understand, to the light that emanated from you from your first breath. And this is one of the hardest truths to accept, because the human mind always wants to find a logical reason for the rejection it suffered. But you were rejected for what you are, not for what you did. And once you understand this, an entire layer of guilt dissolves, because there is nothing you could have done differently. The problem in the spiritual realm was never your conduct, it was your shine. Here we reach a turning point that few manage to make. You need to stop apologizing for the shine you carry. You need to stop shrinking so that your gold does not bother others. Chosen people were not called to be accepted, they were called to be recognized. Recognition is when, even without fully accepting you, people bow before what you represent. Recognition is when the adversaries of your cradle, your youth, and your purpose are forced, even if internally, to admit that they were wrong. And this phase of recognition is closer to you than you imagine. But there is a technical detail, spiritually speaking, that needs to be activated. There is a movement that the chosen one needs to make with their own will, with their own speech, with their own attitudes, to authorize heaven to execute the public restoration of your name. This movement is a combination of internal acceptance, external declaration, and spiritual protection of the family. Without internal acceptance, you continue to sabotage your own shine. Without external declaration, the universe does not receive the confirmation that you are ready to be revealed. And without spiritual protection of the family, you run the risk of rising up and seeing your lineage be attacked as retaliation. It is like climbing into a castle, hoisting a flag on the heights, but forgetting to close the gates down below. That is why I prepared the ebook The Guardian's Handbook for Family Protection, because it takes care of the three pillars at the same time. It teaches you the internal acceptance of your calling, gives you the correct words to make the external declaration that triggers recognition, and gives you the complete protocol of spiritual protection of the family, so that while your golden name shines high, no one in your lineage remains exposed to retaliatory attacks. This book teaches specifically how to act when someone from your past tried to erase your name, how to neutralize the spiritual residue of this erasure, how to close the gates so that future attempts are no longer successful, and mainly, how to raise a mantle of protection over your children, over your parents, over your siblings, and even over the generations that have not yet been born. The link is in the first pinned comment at the top, and once again I warn you, this content challenges the conventional narratives that keep millions of chosen ones in spiritual oblivion. There have already been attempts to take it down. Take advantage of this window. You did not arrive at this text by accident. Download the book now and comment, "I am chosen and I will download the ebook." Comment and prepare yourself, because now we are going to the final stretch. When a soul is marked with gold, heaven does not write once and finish. Heaven writes, rewrites, strengthens, adds ornaments, adds seals, engravings, marks that are deepened with each experience that soul overcomes. Every time someone tried to erase you and failed, heaven took the golden pen and made your name even clearer. Every time you went through a night that seemed endless and woke up alive, heaven placed an extra ornament around your name. Every time you were slandered and yet continued walking with integrity, heaven added a denser layer of gold over each letter. Every time you were betrayed and yet chose not to become bitter, heaven placed a seal that will last forever on your spiritual identity. In other words, your golden name of today is much brighter than it was on the day you were born. Everything they tried to do to diminish you, in fact, made you bigger. There is an ancient spiritual passage that says that tested gold is more valuable than extracted gold. Extracted gold still has impurities. Tested gold has already passed through the fire. It has already been separated from everything that was not real gold. And what happened to you was exactly that. You were placed in a fire that was not your choice. But what seemed like destruction was refinement. What seemed like annihilation was purification. What seemed like your end was just the final process, so that the gold of your name would become pure. Therefore today, your name is not just a golden name. It is a tested, refined, approved, certified name by the highest instances of the spiritual realm. And names like that do not return to oblivion. Names like that begin to appear in places where they were not previously pronounced. Names like that begin to open doors that previously seemed sealed shut. And I know that all of this may seem too big to be real. I know that there is a part of you that hears these words and wants to believe, but is scared by the possibility of it being true. Do you know why you are scared? Because believing means assuming a responsibility. It means no longer being able to hide behind the victim story. It means no longer being able to diminish yourself as a survival strategy. It means having to stand up, hoist your own standard and say, yes, I am chosen. And from today on, I stop living as if I were not. This is the leap. This is the point where most retreat. But you did not come to this text to retreat. You came here to cross this invisible line that separates those who know they are chosen from those who accept being chosen. The last thing I need to tell you is this. Heaven does not write names in gold to leave those people in anonymity. When heaven writes, it is to reveal, and the time of revelation has arrived for you. Soon you will find yourself in situations where your name will be pronounced in places you never imagined. People who do not know your story will say your name with respect. Doors that seemed impossible will open just by the fact that someone has pronounced your name in a specific conversation. Connections that seemed unlikely will form out of nowhere, and those who tried to erase you will hear from unexpected sources about you, and they will no longer be able to ignore you. But to enter this station fully, you need to do your part now. Get the ebook The Guardian's Handbook for Family Protection, because it is the instrument that will guide you step by step in each movement within this new phase. Without it, you will enter this phase groping in the dark. With it, you will enter with clarity, with strategy, with protection, with the level of discernment that chosen ones at the level you are at need to have. The book shows exactly who is playing against your revelation, what are the spiritual rules that govern this process of name restoration, and what entities linked to the higher plane have already revealed about the exact time we are living in, this time of massive awakening of the chosen ones, this time where thousands of names that were erased are being restored simultaneously in a coordinated operation of heaven. This book was written for you. The link is pinned to the top of the comments, in the first pinned comment. And I repeat to you, chosen one, with the seriousness that this moment deserves, this content is not available forever. It challenges narratives that many structures have an interest in keeping intact. There have already been attempts to take it off the air. Do not wait for the right moment, because the right moment is exactly this one. You did not arrive here by accident. You were guided, word by word, to this instant of decision. Download the book now. And leave to close the phrase that seals everything we live together in this text. I am chosen, and I will download the ebook. Comment this. Comment with conviction. Comment like someone who knows that what they tried to erase, heaven has already written in gold. And gold is not erased, gold is revealed, gold shines, gold remains, and yours, chosen one, is about to be seen by the whole world.